I get angrier and angrier the more time I put in on this story, Caitlyn, and you're there, so I'm sure it's palpable for you. You visited a lot of the players in this story today, spent a long time today door knocking. Did you get anywhere?
Absolutely nowhere, Ashleigh. When you say you get angrier and angrier, that's how we felt today. We were trying to get some sort of clarity, any kind of answers from the people who were not only involved in Sandra Birchmore's life, involved in Farwell's life, involved in this investigation, involved in her death. Nobody wanted to talk. And in some of these houses that we showed up to, we could hear them inside, Ash, and they would not come to the door. I don't want to say everyone's kind of running scared, but you did sort of get the idea that these people wanted absolutely nothing to do with us and the questions they knew we were going to ask.
So one of the questions I have is this horrible detail that was in the indictment that alleged that Matthew Farwell forced Sandra Birchmore to behave in a specific way once she started getting older than the teenager he began to have sex with. What was that?
It is really troubling to hear. According to investigators, he allegedly wanted her to continue to act like a 13 or 14-year-old girl during these sexual encounters. And Ashleigh, I actually went back and looked through a lot of the documentation from around her death investigation. And a lot of people in her life, her coworkers and friends described her as being incredibly immature. So that also kind of stays in line with the type of person it sounded like investigators said he was.
Death certificate still saying suicide, and we have a federal indictment. Like, how, A, did the medical examiner screw up so badly, and B, how is the screw up still there?
You know, I wanted to know the answer to that question myself, and I reached out to the medical examiner earlier today. They released a statement to us saying, I think what we all expect in a situation like this. They're cooperating with the investigation. And beyond that, because it is an open investigation, they don't have much to say. But there are certainly more questions than answers there as to how this was ruled a suicide. Now, we know, according to the investigators, the scene was allegedly staged like a suicide by, they say, Matthew Farwell. And of course, he was a detective. He was a longtime police officer. He had firsthand knowledge of how these scenes may look to investigators. But for a medical professional, that is a big question. And we know as part of the wrongful death suit filed back in June by her family and loved ones that there were questions about whether or not that hyoid bone was broken. We talk about that a lot when we talk about these situations, and that bone right here, it's a floating bone. It is fixed. It doesn't often break when it comes to a hanging, but it does with a strangulation. And in this case, the investigator said, certainly in the wrongful death investigation, that the hyoid bone was broken.
Caitlyn Becker, I know you're going to dig something up on this. These details are just so distressing, and I am so glad that you're shining a light on it, and that finally the feds are shining a light on it, and that Sandra Birchmore will hopefully get justice, because she's been denied justice since she was a child. Caitlyn Becker, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.